Spoiler alert for Mushoku Tensei Volume 11. If you haven't read this, then I suggest you do so before continuing on to this video. Rudeus is now married to a lovely wife and has a wonderful home to live in. But little does he know, family drama still happens, even when you're married. Hello everybody, this is the Anime Bro here, and welcome to another video. And today, I'll be reviewing Mushoku Tensei Volume 11. Now before this video starts, please like, share, and subscribe for more videos just like this. And come back next time as I talk about Volume 12. And now, let's begin the video. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the story. Now Volume 11 was a really great volume in the first half, because that was when we get most of the sister stuff, mostly with Norn, but also some bits with Aisha. We get to learn a lot about Norn, and we also get to learn about Aisha and what they usually feel about themselves. Norn feels very sad and doesn't like being compared to her siblings, who are very smart and are considered prodigies of their time. And Aisha feels like she is a illegitimate child of Paul, because when they were on the Millis continent, she wasn't given the same treatment as she was with Norn. So it was a really good first half, learning about the sisters and how they felt about each other and also about themselves. And then eventually after that, we kind of get a different direction in the story. So we get so many good news that I will get to later, but eventually during the middle, something happens where Rudeus has to go and save Zenith in the dungeon that Paul and his party are going through. And I'm all for that. It's just, I thought it would have been better if this volume would have just, stayed with the slice and life setting, because that's what I was thinking of, instead of going to like this adventure setting midway through. Not saying that this volume's bad, it's just, I think it could have done way better in like maybe a little bit more of the slice and life bit. Like I don't like it, but I also don't like it when it just transitions out of nowhere to an adventure story, in my opinion. I usually like staying in the same genre for a while in one of the volumes before getting into a different type of thing, if you guys know what I mean. But all in all, it was a good volume. It had some great moments that I'll get into later, and it was just good to see the sisters again. Not only that, but to see them interact with Rudeus, who is now an adult, and also see them interact with each other, which, as sisters go, they bicker and they fight with each other, but that's normal sibling stuff, so it's not too bad. And that's all I have to say about the story. Alright, now let's talk about some characters. So the first character I want to talk about is Aisha. Now, Aisha has been the same person that she was when Rudeus first met her. She's very energetic, she is very smart. In fact, she was able to get Richard and Norn to Rudeus, that's how smart she was. And she just plans on being a maid to Rudeus, which I can get because when Rudeus met her for the first time, she actually enjoyed being in his company and didn't see him as a problem like Norn did. So yeah, that was basically the same things we've learned from her from Volume 6. But some new things that we learned is actually that she loves to plant. When Rudeus asks her if she wants anything, she says she wants a garden. So she buys some pots and starts planting some seeds in those pots and starting a garden. And that's something good because Rudeus has a garden, and keeping in touch with the garden will actually make it look prettier. But the big sad thing that we learn about Aisha is that she really does feel like an illegitimate child. On the Millis continent, Norn was treated really well because she was Zenith's daughter, while Aisha wasn't treated as nicely because they saw her mother as Paul's mistress. Now, it's mostly because the faith that they practice, the Millis faith, is based on Christianity, which is basically one wife for one person. So it's kind of understandable why they would do that, but it's still very sad for Aisha to feel that way, because she is a nice person, and she shouldn't be seen as like a sin from her father. And that's all I have to say about Aisha. Next, we got Norn, Rudeus' other sister. Now when it comes to Norn, we actually have a perspective on her. So it's a lot more easier to actually explain what she is like. She's a normal girl. She's not super smart like Rudeus and Aisha. She's just a normal girl that wants to live a normal life. She's very quiet to Rudeus because she is actually scared of him. After hearing all the stories of Rudeus and all the things that he's able to do, she actually feels scared that if she stepped out of line for any sort of reason, Rudeus would just kick her out. And she doesn't want to do that. She wants to live her life like a normal girl and will do her best to actually be on good terms with Rudeus. And one thing she really does hate mostly is being compared to her siblings. Even though Aisha feels like a illegitimate child, Norn feels like she is nothing compared to her siblings. Her siblings get praised for everything. Aisha is very smart. Rudeus is very talented with magic. Things like that. And she really hates it. She doesn't like being compared to her siblings, and she wants to be known for her own thing. In fact, she actually becomes a shut-in because of this. And I'll get more into detail about that. And one last final thing I have to say about Norn is that she likes talking about Richard. She mostly likes Richard because Richard was kind of like the replacement for Paul when she was on the journey. Richard made her feel safe. Richard really was kind to her, so that's why she really likes Richard. But it seems like now she has adjusted to living with Rudeus, so I think everything will be fine for Norn. Next we got Ginger, the loyal guard of Xanabo. Now, not much is known about her. She was one of the people that helped get Norn and Aisha to Rudeus, so she is a really good person when it comes to that. And she's very loyal to Xanabo. In fact, when Ginger spoke out of line and Xanabo actually punished her harshly, Ginger didn't seem to mind it. In fact, when Rudeus was going to scold Xanabo, Ginger said, "Don't mind me, I'm fine with it. If this is how he wants to do it, then he wants to do it." And it's not really that serious of a story of why. Not much to it. She just follows Xanabo because of the mother. And just one last final thing. She is very glad that Xanabo and Rudeus become friends. Knowing that Xanabo is one of the strongest people, she knows that it is very hard for someone like him to actually become friends with, well, anyone. So she's very glad that Rudeus and Xanabo have that kind of friendship. So that's just some stuff about her. Alright, now let's talk about location. So the first location I want to talk about is the Lumen Forest. Now there's not really much when it comes to the Lumen Forest. It just has old trees with branches that cover the sun. It is filled with giant monsters, and it has a ruin with a teleportation circle. That's basically it. Just your generic RPG forest. Alright, so the next location I have is a location we actually do know a bit about. Not much, but a bit more than the Lumen Forest. And that is the Bazaar. Now, the Bazaar is about 7 days from the teleportation circle. It has a huge lake, which is very good because when you build a location where you want to stop around and, visit, it's best to have a source of water. It is like a donut from above. So, I don't remember what I put when I was writing this. I think it's like there's land in the center of the lake, and from above it looks like a donut. And people here have turbans on their heads, which, for those who don't know, it looks like this. I don't know how to really describe it. This is what a turban is, if you don't know. And people love large tents, or mostly people here. So mostly it's just something set up for people to do trading and stuff along in this area. So the reason why I want to talk about the Bazaar is because this is kind of like the Middle East in some ways. For those who don't know, the golden age of the Muslim Empire is basically what this kind of centers. It seems like there's a lot of trade routes. It's a big desert and all that. So yeah, I can pretty much see the influence of the Middle East in here. So that's something that's really interesting to put it. And yeah, that is all the new locations that we know about. So if I've gotten anything incorrect, comment down below and, tell me what I got wrong. And that's all I have to say about these locations. Alright, now let's talk about iconic moments. So the first iconic moment that I want to talk about is Rudeas and Sylphine going shopping. Now this is just a normal Rudeus and Sylphine moment where they just talk about what's happening in their life. They talk about Norn and Aisha and what's going on, and Rudeus asks her if she would choose the princess over him. Sadly, Sylphine says she would choose her. She loves Rudeus, but believes that the princess would be bad on her own. I know it's not really much, but I just love the little moments where Rudeus and Sylphine actually act like a couple, so that's why I kind of put this here. Nothing too special, just, a couple being a couple. Next, we got Aisha Cries. Now, one of the first things that Rudeus does when his sisters get here is that they apply for the university that he goes to so that they can have an education and, live normal lives. Aisha wants to serve Rudeus, but Rudeus would only allow it if she actually took the test and passed it. And Norn wants to live out her life in the dorm room. Now, Aisha gets a perfect score, and Norn passes. Not by a lot, but she actually does pass, so she gets to go in the dorm. Now, Aisha cries because, she feels like an illegitimate child. Like I've said before, during the time when they were visiting the Millis continent, Aisha was treated very badly by Zenith's family. They thought of her as an illegitimate child. They didn't even think of her as like an actual person. They really put their attention on Norn. And it kind of did make sense because they kind of didn't like Paul and they saw her as just Paul's offspring, not really his child. Now, the reason why I put this here is because you get to see that life wasn't good for her either. She's a child that has been treated harshly, even though she's been very gifted. And, it puts more depth into her character. And I really do like that. Next, we got Norn's perspective. So in Norn's perspective, we get to learn many things about what Norn is feeling. First off, she really hates Rudeus because the first time she met, Rudeus was beating up Paul, and she didn't like that her father was getting beat up by someone when he really didn't deserve it. And that was what made her hate Rudeus. But then eventually when she met up with Aisha, she learned that Rudeus is a very strong person and that he can do many magical things. And then soon this hatred towards Rudeus becomes fear because she is afraid that Rudeus will actually do something if she doesn't comply to him. But over time, when she gets to live here, she actually gets to feel safe around Rudeus, and she can actually see the similarities with Rudeus and Paul. Now, the reason why I put this here is because, we never got a Norn's perspective. I also think we never got an Aisha's one, but honestly, Norn's perspective seemed to be a perfect fit for this one. Because Norn was very quiet and we didn't really get to know much through Rudeus' perspective. So honestly, having Norn's one really did help her build as a character. So yeah, I really did enjoy that. Next is Sylphine is pregnant. Well, not much to be said here. Sylphine announces to Rudeus that she is pregnant and that they will be having their first child. And because of this, she has to take a break from her bodyguard duties so she can have a safe pregnancy and that she will be alright. And that is basically it. Just a happy moment that Sylphine and Rudeus have and all that stuff. Now, the reason why this is also another big important is because, no joke, literally like the next couple of sentences in the book, we get a letter from Geese saying that Rudeus needs to come and help them. And with the pregnancy and this now happening, it becomes a big decision. Does Rudeus stay for his wife, or does Rudeus go out to help with Paul? And that is kind of why I mostly put this here. It's good to have, happy moments, wholesome moments like this, but this helped it become like one of the big moments in this volume. Next, we got Rudeus talks to the man god again. So after a while, the man god actually talks to Rudeus. and a lot has happened. He's got married, he's had friends, he's been going to school, he's now having a child, he meets his sisters again. All these things are happening now, and Rudeus talks to the man god again. Now, the thing about this is that Rudeus is coming off of a predicament. Should he go to the Brigette continent and save Paul, or should he stay here and be with his wife? Now, this becomes a big question because both of them seem good, but also they have some outcomes that would be bad. Rudeus can go and save Paul, but say if something were to happen to him on his journey and he would die, Sylphie would be upset, his child would have no father, a lot of bad things. But if he actually stayed put and took care of his wife, then Paul might be dead and Zenith might be in the dungeon trapped forever. So there's a lot of big and bad things. And the one thing that I really did like about this is that Man God tells him he should stay here because he will regret it if he goes to save his father. And that's basically why I have this moment here. Also, the Man God is just a cool person to have. He is a person that is very important in this world, and every time he shows up, something big will always happen. So that's why I put this here. And then finally we got Rudeus thinks about the letter. So after Rudeus talks to the Man God, he's really wondering whether he should go or stay. Like I said before, he actually is on the sideline to it. There's some good sides to both of them. He first talks to Elena Elise and also Xanabo about whether or not to go. They both give their inputs. Xanabo wants him to stay, mostly because of personal reasons. Elena Elise is willing to go and help Paul out even though they had their differences, and that stuff happens. But honestly, it was really Norn who helped him out. And I kind of think that was really cool, actually, that Norn was the one who helped him out. Because his volume has definitely been about the sisters more than anything. And having Norn be the person to actually give him the push to actually go is a really good thing that I really do like. And of course I put this here because it is a big moment in Rudeus' life. Because either way, there's going to be some bad and there's going to be some good. So whether he decides one thing or another, there's going to be some problems that he's going to have to face down below. And that is it for the iconic moments. If you think I've forgotten some moments in this volume that you thought were awesome to talk about, then comment down below and tell me what it is. Alright, now let's end this video. So if I were to rank this volume, I would honestly rank it a B. I do like learning about the sisters and also learning mostly about Norn and just seeing the slice and life bit as a whole. But I just found it weird that we got to an adventure story halfway through it. I know I said I don't like the slice and life bit, but sometimes it can actually get me to like a story. And here it definitely did. Sadly, because it switched to an adventure story, I kinda was very disappointed after that. They should have actually continued the slice and life story and then did the next adventure bit in another volume. I think it would definitely have worked that way. But sadly, that's not what we got. Many of the iconic moments were great, and also we got a progress in Rudeus' family. Not only does he have his sisters back, but also now he has a child on the way. So the Grey Rat family is definitely growing. And one thing is that I hope to see the rest of the family. Paul, Zenith, Leela, everyone back together again under one roof. It is something I'm looking forward to. Now, like I said, the part that I really didn't like was that it was an adventure story. I like adventure stories, like everyone else. But why did it have to be in this one? We could have just waited for another volume. This definitely had a lot of traveling and we did get to see some new locations. But when you start off with a slice and life bit, I kind of just want to stay with the slice and life. That is my thing, and that's all I have to say about this volume. It is a very good volume. Good thing that we learned about the sisters, but sadly, we should have just stayed with slice and life. Alright, and that is the end of this video. If you really enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe for more videos just like this. And come back next time as I talk about Volume 12. Rudeus is now going off to save his mother, and now we'll just see what happens next. And as always, I am the Anime Bro, and see you guys later. Peace!